The Painted Veil was written by W. Somerset Maugham and first published in 1925. The novel is set in the 1920s and follows the journey of a young Englishwoman named Kitty Fane. It takes place in both England and colonial Hong Kong, with later events unfolding in a remote Chinese village. The story is about love, betrayal, and personal growth, showing how people can change through difficult experiences. Maugham was inspired to write this book after reading about a cholera outbreak in China, and the title comes from a line in a poem by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Kitty Fane is a beautiful but shallow young woman from an upper-class British family. She grows up believing that she will marry well because of her looks. But when she reaches her mid-20s and is still unmarried, she feels pressured to find a husband quickly. In a rush, she agrees to marry Walter Fane, a quiet and serious bacteriologist who is deeply in love with her. Walter works in Hong Kong, so soon after their wedding, the couple moves there. However, Kitty does not love Walter and finds him dull and unexciting. Longing for passion and excitement, she soon begins an affair with Charles Townsend, a charming and confident British official who is already married with children. She convinces herself that Charles truly loves her and that their relationship has a future. However, her world falls apart when Walter discovers their affair. Instead of confronting Charles, Walter gives Kitty a shocking ultimatum. She must either accompany him to a remote Chinese village suffering from a deadly cholera outbreak, or he will file for divorce and expose her affair, ruining her reputation. To Kitty's horror, Charles refuses to leave his wife for her, making it clear that he only saw their relationship as a meaningless fling. Heartbroken and humiliated, she has no choice but to follow Walter to the dangerous village, filled with fear and uncertainty about what lies ahead. The village of Meitanfu is devastated by disease and death. The cholera outbreak has already claimed many lives, and the living conditions are harsh. Kitty, who has never known hardship in her life, finds it difficult to adjust. At first, she resents Walter for bringing her to such a terrible place and feels trapped in a situation she cannot escape. She despises the unfamiliar surroundings, the constant threat of disease, and the lack of comfort she was used to in Hong Kong. However, as she spends more time in the village, she begins to change. Kitty meets the French nuns, who run a convent and hospital, tirelessly caring for the sick and orphaned children. Despite the danger of the disease, the nuns dedicate themselves to helping others with unwavering faith and kindness. Seeing their selflessness, Kitty feels ashamed of her past selfishness and begins to find purpose in helping at the convent. At first, she performs small tasks, but soon she becomes more involved, growing more confident and fulfilled in her new role. Through this work, she experiences genuine gratitude and appreciation from others for the first time in her life. Over time, Kitty starts to see the world differently. She realizes that she has spent most of her life thinking only of herself, valuing superficial things, and chasing after meaningless love. Working at the convent gives her a sense of fulfillment she has never known before. She also begins to see Walter in a new light. Though their relationship remains strained, she gradually comes to respect his intelligence and dedication. Walter, however, remains distant, unable to forgive Kitty for her betrayal. Though they live under the same roof, they hardly communicate, and their marriage feels like a fragile truce rather than a loving partnership. Just as Kitty starts to find a sense of peace in her new life, tragedy strikes. Walter falls ill with cholera. Despite their strained relationship, Kitty cares for him in his final days, doing all she can to ease his suffering. She witnesses firsthand how fragile life is and how deep Walter's sorrow runs. In a moment of weakness, Walter asks her if Charles was worth it, if she truly loved him. Kitty, no longer the naive woman who once adored illusions, responds without hesitation. She tells Walter that Charles was never the man she thought he was, that he was shallow and self-serving. For the first time, she speaks with complete honesty, not out of guilt or fear, but because she finally understands the truth. Walter dies, leaving Kitty alone in the village, filled with grief, regret, and uncertainty about what to do next. After Walter's death, Kitty returns to Hong Kong, where she unexpectedly encounters Charles again. He assumes she will want to resume their affair, but this time, Kitty sees through his charm and arrogance. She realizes that he was never the man she thought he was and that she does not love him. Determined to move on from her past mistakes, she firmly rejects him, making it clear that she is no longer the naive woman who once adored him. This moment marks a turning point in Kitty's transformation. She is no longer controlled by illusions or dependent on the affection of others for her self-worth. Kitty then travels back to England, stopping in Shanghai along the way. While there, she makes a life-changing discovery. She is pregnant with Walter's child. At first, she feels lost and uncertain about her future. She worries about how she will raise the child alone and what kind of life they will have. She experiences moments of doubt, wondering whether she is truly strong enough to build a new life without relying on a man. But gradually, she finds strength within herself. She decides that she will raise her child with love and wisdom, ensuring that they do not make the same mistakes she did. She dreams of returning to England and starting fresh, far away from the constraints of her old life and the disappointments of her past. The novel ends with Kitty looking toward the future, wiser and more mature than before. Though she has suffered greatly, she has also grown into a stronger person. She no longer relies on others for happiness and no longer chases illusions of love. Instead, she is determined to build a new life for herself and her child, embracing the unknown with courage and hope. She acknowledges that the future is uncertain, but she is no longer afraid of it. Maugham's The Painted Veil is a story about transformation and redemption. It shows how suffering and hardship can change people, making them stronger and wiser. Kitty begins as a selfish, careless woman, but by the end of the novel, she has gained a deeper understanding of love, loss, and responsibility. The novel also explores the theme of illusion versus reality. Kitty believed she loved Charles, but she was blinded by her own desires, failing to see the truth about him. In the end, she learns to see the world more clearly. The Painted Veil is a beautifully written story that reminds readers that even in the darkest moments, there is an opportunity for change and redemption.